Stop everything you are doing this instant. If this video appeared to you in the days leading up to June 29th, this is not a coincidence. It is not the algorithm. It is not luck. There is something inside you that has been asking for silence, asking for truth, asking for a clear sign that yes, you are not going crazy, you are not overreacting, and everything you feel is part of a movement much larger than your rational mind can explain at this moment. You are a volunteer, and this word is not mine. This word comes from Dolores Cannon, the hypnotherapist who, for over 50 years, conducted thousands of regressions and discovered something that forever changed the way we understand what is happening on Earth right now. You are one of the 3 waves of volunteers she described. Souls who came from other planes, from other dimensions, from other systems, with a specific mission to help this planet in the greatest frequency transition in its history. And before June 29th, something needs to be understood with urgency. Because the full moon in Capricorn that is coming is exactly one of the windows that Dolores Cannon described as a turning point for the volunteers who have not yet awakened to the real reason for being here. You have felt in recent weeks a kind of restlessness that has no direct name. You woke up in the middle of the night with a tightness in your chest for no apparent reason. You looked at your own life and realized that everything is apparently in order, but internally something is screaming. Dolores Cannon used to say in almost all her lectures that this scream is the soul of the volunteer demanding what was promised before incarnation. Because you made a contract. You did not come to Earth for karma. You did not come to fulfill personal lessons. You came on a mission of service. And the volunteers, she explained, are those who accepted to descend to the planet even knowing they would go through a brutal phase of forgetting, of feeling like they didn't belong, of profound loneliness in the midst of their own biological families. This forgetting is the price of entering the density of Earth. But there comes a moment when the veil begins to tear. And this moment, for many volunteers, is exactly now, in this astrological window that opens before the full moon of June 29th. Lightworkers, as Dolores called them at times, or the volunteers of the waves as she detailed in her books, did not arrive on this planet to have a comfortable and lukewarm life. They arrived precisely to disturb the collective inertia, to open cracks in the concrete of the old frequency, to make those close to them remember what they themselves came here to do, and you spent years thinking you were too weird, too sensitive, too intense, too deep to fit in anywhere. Dolores explained this with absolute clarity in her regressions. You never came to fit in. You came to expand. Everything you considered a flaw throughout your life is exactly your raw material for work as a volunteer. Your sensitivity that you tried to hide, your intuition that you tried to silence, your ability to perceive energy layers that no one else perceives, your pain that no one understood, all of this now becomes a tool. All of this now gains a sacred function. All of this now becomes your sharpest work instrument in this final stage of the mission. And here arrives the first truth that needs to go deep into your heart before June 29th. The pains you lived through were not punishment. The crises you went through were not failure. The years of isolation, of incomprehension, of feeling that no one could reach you, were not a waste. They were training. Dolores Cannon repeated this in almost all her lectures with a firmness that few understood. The volunteers, especially those of the 2nd and 3rd waves, were designed to go through specific pains so that they could later hold the hand of other people going through similar pains. It is no coincidence that you went through what you went through. It is not bad luck. It is not a cruel destiny. It is a curriculum. It is your field training. Those who have not cried on the floor do not know how to speak to those who are on the floor. Those who have never doubted God do not know how to lead someone back to faith. Those who have never been lost do not know how to light the way. And you have been lost, you have doubted, you have cried, you have broken, and you survived. And this survival now is your most legitimate credential as a volunteer. There is no diploma that compares to this. Comment Eu lembro now if you felt in this moment something move inside of you. This comment is not just engagement. This comment is a pact. It is you telling your own unconscious that you are finally recognizing who you came here to be. And once the unconscious registers this recognition, the universe begins to reorganize pieces that had been stagnant for years. Dolores used to say that the subconscious, or what she called the SC, registers every conscious decision of the volunteer, and begins to align opportunities exactly from that registration. Now pay attention, because what comes next is the heart of the message. Your wounds need to turn into service, not tomorrow, not when you feel totally ready, now. And I know what is going through your head at this instant. You are thinking, but I am not yet fully healed. I still have triggers. I still have bad days. I still cry for no reason. How am I going to help someone if I am staggering myself? Stop that. That is the biggest lie that the shelf spiritual system has put in your head. Dolores Cannon, in one of her most striking statements, said that many volunteers remain paralyzed, waiting for a complete healing that was never part of the plan. You do not need to be healed to serve. You need to be willing. Healing happens in the movement of service, not before it. You will not help anyone when you are perfect. You will help when you are whole, and whole does not mean untouched. Whole means alive, present, real, with visible scars and functioning anyway. You will help with your cracks on display, with your humanity exposed, with your painful truth, because that is exactly what makes another person see themselves in you. No one identifies with a saint. Everyone identifies with someone who fell, got back up, and has the courage to tell how it was. Dolores explained that volunteers carry in their energetic DNA a frequency that other people recognize even without understanding. When you show up as who you are, without a mask, without a disguise, without an attempt to seem evolved, the right people feel it. They approach due to a force that not even they can name. Your story, even with endings still open, even with chapters still aching, even with characters you have not yet forgiven, it is already capable of saving someone. And while you wait to be healed to start, there are people giving up. There are people falling into deep depression. There are people getting lost in addictions. There are people considering terrible things about themselves. And you, who could be the voice that this person needs to hear on a given day, are waiting for the ideal moment. There is no ideal moment. There is no. Volunteer is not a title reserved for a guru, for a certified therapist, for a famous person, for someone with a large platform, for someone who lives in a temple on top of a sacred mountain. Volunteer, in the sense that Dolores Cannon described, is the mother who listens to her child with real presence after an exhausting day of work. It is the office colleague who notices the sadness in another's gaze and offers a coffee and a conversation without an agenda. It is the neighbor who brings a meal to the lonely elderly person upstairs. It is the rideshare driver who talks with genuine kindness to every passenger who gets into the car. It is the teacher who looks at a student in their eyes and says, "You acredito en você," even when everyone else has given up on that student. You don't need to set up a course to start fulfilling your contract. You need to start where you already are, with those you already have around you, just as you are today with the tools you already have in your hands. Dolores used to say that many volunteers fulfill their mission without ever speaking publicly about spirituality. They fulfill it through their presence, through the quality of their gaze, through the vibration they carry into a room. And this is the third key turning point I need you to understand, before the full moon of June 29th. Changing the world will not happen with grandiose, cinematic gestures. It will happen in the microcosm of small daily actions. In every moment, you choose patience instead of reactivity. Every time you truly listen instead of just waiting for your turn to speak. Every time you share something you've learned without charging for it, without expecting recognition, without needing applause. Every time you send a message to someone saying, "Lembrei de você hoje e queria saber como você está." Every time you hold space without distraction, without a phone in your hand, without rush, for someone who simply needs to be heard without being fixed. This is light in motion. This is sacred service. This is a volunteer's mission being fulfilled at the deepest possible level. And the effect of this, even if invisible to your eyes, is gigantic in the collective field. Dolores spoke a lot about the web, about how each conscious act of a volunteer resonates in thousands of other points of the planetary energy grid, even when that volunteer doesn't see a direct result in front of their eyes. And this is exactly what the full moon in Capricorn on June 29th comes to demand from you very clearly. Capricorn does not admit sentimental missions, theoretical missions, or missions of faith without practical proof. Capricorn wants to see concrete results. Capricorn is the ruler, the calendar, the structure, the commitment, what was delivered, what is still standing, what remained after the wind passed and took everything fragile away. And this full moon will expose, without mercy, the distance between what you say you came here to do and what you are effectively doing. There is no escaping it. There is no sugarcoating it. There is no negotiating with Capricorn. It simply places the truth in front of you and asks, where is it? Where is what you promised to build? Where is the step you promised to take? Where is the message you promised to publish? Where is the boundary you promised to set? Where is the project you promised to start? You have spent months, perhaps years, telling yourself that you are in a process, that you are preparing, that you are studying, reading books by Dolores, taking courses, accumulating tools, therapies, and certifications. All of that may be true, but at some point preparation must turn into practice, study must turn into delivery, knowledge must turn into generosity applied in real life, with real people, in real situations. And the full moon of June 29th is here exactly to shine a strong light on this invisible frontier between what you know and what you do. Where are you procrastinating on delivery in the name of more preparation? Where are you confusing fear with wisdom? Where are you using spiritual discourse as a very well-decorated hiding place? Capricorn will expose it, and exposure, for those who accept it, becomes freedom. For those who resist, it becomes prolonged suffering, it becomes insomnia, it becomes that feeling of spinning around yourself without ever getting anywhere. Dolores Cannon used to say that the volunteer's subconscious is permitted to generate physical, emotional, and mental symptoms to force an awakening when the direct channel is ignored for too long. The restlessness you feel today may be exactly that. It is not an illness, it is a calling. Comment now, you intrego, if you are willing to stop hiding your mission behind eternal preparations. This comment is a vow of public commitment, and public commitments carry a different energetic weight. The universe registers. The right people start to approach. Doors that were jammed start to unlock in ways that seem magical, but that are, in truth, just the natural consequence of you finally being coherent with what you say. Now let me ask you something very directly. Without softening the blow, what exactly are you waiting for to start? Another degree? More therapy? Another course? Another clear sign? Another synchronicity? Another confirmation that you really are the chosen one? I'm going to tell you a truth that few people have the courage to say in this contemporary spiritual universe. The waiting, in the vast majority of cases, is fear disguised as prudence. The fear of exposure, the fear of being judged, the fear of not being good enough, the fear of trying and failing publicly, the fear of trying and succeeding, because succeeding means never being able to return to the small and predictable life you had before. And your mind is so sophisticated in producing excuses that it turns this fear into beautiful discourses about alignment, about timing, about flowing, about trusting the divine process. All of that is true at some moments, and it is pure self-deception at others. You know the difference. Deep down, in the silence of 3 in the morning, you know exactly which one is yours. The person who is truly aligned acts. They act with calm, with presence, with inner listening, but they act. The awakened volunteer does not stay spinning around their own navel, deciphering signs infinitely, waiting for the definitive oracle. Dolores Cannon said something very interesting about this. She recounted that, in the deepest regressions, when she managed to speak directly to the volunteer's subconscious, this subconscious always gave the same practical guidance. Start. Just start. Do it poorly. Do it with a trembling voice. Do it with the camera poorly positioned. Do it with the text crooked, with the wrong lighting, with simple clothes, with the house messy in the background. Do it afraid. But do it. Because everything you need to learn, you will only learn in the middle of the movement. Clarity does not come before action. Clarity comes because of action. This is the secret that no one tells you within a spiritual culture that sells eternal preparation as a product. And while you wait for the perfect moment, someone with half your sensitivity, with half your knowledge, with half your depth, is out there, with a shaky camera, with a crooked text, helping thousands of people every day. Not because that person is better than you, but because that person understood something long before you did. Imperfection in motion is always worth infinitely more than perfection at a standstill. Always. Anywhere in the universe. And the full moon of June 29th will demand exactly this movement from you. It will not demand excellence, it will demand courage. It will not demand a finished result, it will demand a first step taken. It will not demand success, it will demand honesty. Another thing that needs to be said with absolute clarity before this energetic window closes: you do not need to make this journey alone. This old myth of the solitary spiritual warrior, who climbs the mountain alone, who meditates isolated from all others, who has to distance themselves from everything and everyone to be purified, is a narrative that served some past cycles, but that no longer fits what is happening now on the planet. Dolores Cannon emphasized that the third wave volunteers especially came to work in a network, to form groups, to recognize other volunteers, and form collective energetic fields that sustain the frequency of the new Earth. The new paradigm is collaboration. It is community. It is a gathering of people who vibrate at similar frequencies to amplify results that none of them could achieve alone. And perhaps you are still looking at other volunteers as competitors, as people who are occupying the space that could be yours, as threats to your own recognition. This, I must tell you firmly, is a remnant of the scarcity mentality of the old world. There is no longer any room for this kind of thinking in what is to come. There is a person, or perhaps two or three, who will cross your path in the coming weeks, and these people have exactly the complementary talent you need for your mission to take off. You are good at feeling. Perhaps this person is good at structuring. You are good at speaking. Perhaps this person is good at organizing. You are good at creating content. Perhaps this person is good at distributing it and reaching places you could never reach on your own. Dolores called these encounters soul family reconnections, people you have already worked with in other lives, on other planes, in other configurations, and who are being positioned on your path at this specific moment so that you may fulfill together a piece of the mission that was impossible to fulfill apart. Your task is to keep your heart open, to recognize these people when they appear, and not to waste these connections out of pride, insecurity, or fear of sharing the stage. The stage is infinite. The world's demand for authentic light is gigantic. There is no lack of space for anyone willing to show up with truth. And furthermore, surrounding yourself with aligned people is a form of energetic support that you will desperately need in the coming months. Because the mission is heavy, subtle attacks are real, days of exhaustion happen, the voices of doubt return, they always return, and they return exactly on the days when you are closest to an important breakthrough. Dolores called this the wave test. The volunteer's subconscious sends a final wave of doubt, a kind of final filter, before unlocking the next level of the mission. Those who give up on this wave return to the previous cycle. Those who push through, supported by the community, open the next portal. When you have by your side people who recognize what you are going through, who speak the same spiritual language without needing translation, who understand without long explanations what it is like to carry this frequency, you replenish yourself, you remember who you are, you return to your axis. Alone, in a world that constantly questions your sanity, it is much easier to succumb. Comment now Yumi Abro if you are willing to let aligned people into your life, even if it means moving away from old relationships that no longer fit. Because that is another thing this full moon will force. Some relationships will need to be reviewed. Some will need more distance. Others will need more depth and more truth. And you will feel very clearly where each one stands. You won't need to rationalize it. You will just feel with a new certainty who you can count on for this next phase and whose hand you need to, with love let go of. And now we reach the final point, the most important message of everything said here. You need before June 29th to make a decision. It is not a small decision. It is not a decision about practical daily tasks. It is a decision about identity. Will you continue hiding, or will you publicly assume who you are? Because as long as you remain in the shadows, afraid of bothering others, afraid of drawing attention, afraid of being seen, you are denying the world what it most needs at this exact moment. And the world is literally in an existential crisis. People are lost. People are falling ill with sadness, anxiety, loneliness, deep disconnection from themselves. And you who have within you an answer, a vibration, a presence that can alleviate this pain, are silent, are still, are shrinking yourself to fit into spaces that were never your original size. Embracing your light is not arrogance. It is not an inflated ego. It is not thinking you are superior to others. Dolores Cannon used to say that the awakened volunteer does not seek to stand out. They seek simply to stop dimming themselves. There is an abyssal difference between these two stances. Embracing your light is stopping the pretense that you do not perceive what you perceive, that you do not feel what you feel, that you do not know what you know. It is ceasing to apologize for existing the way you exist. It is speaking when you feel you need to speak, even if your voice trembles on the first sentence. It is writing what is suffocating within your chest, even if no one reads it at first, even if the initial texts have no apparent return. It is showing up with all your imperfections and trusting that those who need to find you will find you precisely because of those imperfections, not in spite of them. Your imperfections are one of your languages of spiritual identification. They say, without words, I am one of your own, one of your. The full moon of June 29th acts as an extremely clear dividing line. Before it, you still had some reasonable excuses. After it, these excuses lose their power entirely. The sky is demanding coherence. Your own body is demanding coherence. Your pains, your sleeplessness, your restlessness without apparent reason, all of this is your internal system screaming that you can no longer live outside your purpose without paying an increasingly high price in your physical and emotional health. And when you finally surrender, when you finally say yes to the mission, when you finally stop running from yourself, something very powerful happens. Opportunities begin to appear in inexplicable ways. The right people start seeking you out before you even announce yourself. Resources that seemed impossible begin to materialize in casual conversations. Dolores Cannon explained this very clearly in her books. She said that the instant the volunteer says yes to the mission definitively, the subconscious releases what she called a resource package. Synchronicities that were dammed up begin to flow. Meetings scheduled before incarnation start to happen. Knowledge that seemed lost returns to the mind as a natural memory. And you will look back a few months from now and wonder how you managed to live so long stuck, so long holding back, so long waiting for an authorization that was never going to come from the outside. You will understand that life truly began the moment you decided to stop waiting and started being. You will understand that everything you feared, at the moment it finally happened, was much less painful than you imagined, and that the real pain was keeping yourself trapped, pretending to be small. You will understand that courage is not the absence of fear. Courage is acting while afraid, feeling all the fear in your body, and discovering in the middle of the path that on the other side of fear there is a version of you who has been waiting for you for a long time, with infinite patience, without judging your delay. That is why I ask you, before closing this video, do one simple thing. Pick up your phone. Send a message to someone who came to your mind while you were watching this. Don't overthink it. Don't try to find the perfect sentence. Don't keep rewriting it. Just send it. It can be a thinking of you. It can be, I'm thinking of you today. It can be, how are you really? This simple act, today, right now, will start moving things in your life that no elaborate ritual could move. Because your mission as a volunteer starts exactly like this. Small, real, immediate, without spectacle, without production, just with the truth of your heart extending to the heart of another person in silence. And if at this moment you felt like crying, let yourself cry. If you felt like taking a deep breath, let the air in. If you felt like closing your eyes for a few seconds and simply acknowledging, in silence, that yes, you are a volunteer, that yes, you came with a true mission, yes, the time for hiding is over. Do this right now without witnesses, without anyone needing to know. This instant is sacred. This instant is your true initiation. Dolores Cannon called these instants moments of irreversible awakening. Once lived, there is no possible return to the previous state of unconsciousness. Do not close this video the same way you opened it. If you have listened this far, something in you recognized the truth of what was said. And once the truth is recognized internally, you can no longer pretend you don't know. Innocence is over. Responsibility has begun. And it is a beautiful responsibility. It is the responsibility of being who you have always been beneath all the layers of fear, of protection, of the social persona you built to survive. It is the responsibility of finally living with your true face appearing in the mirror every morning. Comment "Eu assumo" now if you are ready to come out of the shadows and appear in the world with the light that has always been yours. This comment is not channel decoration. This comment is your first public act of coherence with your mission. And the universe, I guarantee you, registers every word that comes from you with true intention, even when it is typed on a small cell phone keyboard in the middle of any given night. Every word spoken with truth reorganizes something in your energy field, even if you do not immediately see the result. The full moon of June 29th is coming very fast. It will not wait for your courage to mature at your own pace. It will pass with you or without you, just as the sun rises every day regardless of who is awake to see it. And the difference between the two scenarios is gigantic. With you conscious, committed, positioned, it will be the portal to a new phase with new encounters, new opportunities, new confirmations that you are on the right path, even if this path looks like nothing you imagined. Without you conscious, it will only reinforce the cycle of restlessness, of frustration, of the feeling of missing something important without being able to name exactly what. You do not need to wait for another sign. This video is the sign. You do not need to wait for another confirmation. This message is the confirmation. You do not need to wait for the ideal moment. The ideal moment has already arrived and is pulsing inside you now, asking to pass, knocking at the door of your chest, screaming from inside your ribs. The question is simple and brutal. Are you going to let it pass, or are you going to open the door? Everything you need to begin you already have within you. The story you have, the sensitivity you have, the internal tools you have, the courage, even if trembling, even if minuscule at first you have. Only the conscious decision is missing. And this decision is up to no one but you. It is not up to your birth chart. It is not up to your therapist. It is not up to your mentor. It is not up to your mother. It is not up to God. It is up to you. Dolores Cannon used to say that the free will of the volunteer is so respected by the higher planes that not even the guides can act without the conscious permission of the incarnated person. And when you decide for real, without reservations, the rest reorganizes itself around this decision in a way that will surprise you by the speed and precision of the pieces falling into place. So take a deep breath now before continuing your normal life. Feel your chest rise and fall, feel your heart beating, and recognize within yourself that everything said here today you already knew. You were just waiting for someone to put into words what had been screaming in silence inside you for too long. Here it is, in words, with no room for any more excuses. Now it is up to you. The full moon arrives in a few days, and it will find you being whom? Being who you have always pretended to be to survive, or being who you have always been to serve. The choice finally is yours. It has always been yours. Only now you know it with a new clarity. Dolores Cannon departed from this plane in 2014, but the work she left behind lives on in every volunteer who recognizes, albeit late, the real reason for their presence here. She used to end her lectures with a simple phrase, almost modest, yet one that carries enormous weight. Once you understand the depth of what she saw in regressions over half a century, she said, in essence, that no one comes to Earth by chance, and that every volunteer who awakens accelerates the awakening of hundreds of others around them. You are one of these points of acceleration. You always have been. And the full moon of June 29th is ultimately just a cosmic mirror reflecting back to you that question she spent her entire life asking, are you finally willing to remember what you came here to do? I trust you. The world trusts you even without knowing your name. Life has trusted you for a long time, which is why it keeps giving you opportunities, even when you refuse them. Now, you trust as well. Trust who you are when no one is watching. Trust the silent voice that appears when the noise turns off. Trust what you feel when you allow yourself to feel without a filter. That voice, that presence, that light, is the most real thing that exists within you. And all it is asking of you before June 29th is just one thing. Just show up. Just that. Show up where you already are, as who you already are, the way you can right now. The rest life will design. Your mission begins the exact instant you stop asking for permission to exist as you are. And that instant, I tell you with all firmness, is exactly this one right now between the last word of this video and the next breath you will take.